Hello, guys. Nat Blue here, and today I want to take a quick moment to discuss a couple of movies I've seen recently. Last week, I went to see Venom: The Last Dance, and this week, I got to go see The Wild Robot. We're going to start with Venom. So I'm a big comic book fan, and I love superhero movies, but I've never been a big fan of the Venom movies. My biggest gripe with them is that Venom movies should have a connection to Spider-Man, past and after credit scene and the mention of the Daily Bugle. I think the first one was alright, mostly because I think Tom Hardy does a good job as Eddie Brock. The second movie was just bad. They didn't do Carnage justice. The nightclub scene was awful. I kind of wish they had picked somebody other than Woody Harrelson. I love Woody Harrelson. I think there were better options for Carnage. My favorite option is the guy who played Rorschach in Watchmen. I think he would have done an incredible job because he does that deranged criminal thing really well. I didn't come into this movie excited. I don't think the trailers were that good. I didn't have high hopes after the disappointment of the second movie. And after the movie was finished, I realized I was justified. It was a relatively fun movie. There were some good jokes, action scenes were solid. There's a family that lives in a van that I really liked in this movie. And I did have a few issues that I really wanted to break down there. My first and biggest issue is that Null is barely in the movie. The trailers hyped him up as a villain in the movie, and I think he only has like 2 or 3 scenes the entire movie. The seemingly indestructible monsters that are indestructible until, they aren't indestructible, he sent out were more present of a threat than he was. And I don't think that does the character of Null justice. He is such a powerhouse in the comic books. I kind of wanted to see that a little bit. I hate that they got such an amazing voice actor for him just for it to be relatively wasted. And I'm not sure if they're going to bring him back for future projects, but I hope that they don't bring him into the MCU like the rumors say might happen. I just don't think it would be a very good fit. They would also have to introduce a Venom into the MCU because just Spider-Man is not defeating Null. Second issue I have is the number of symbiotes in the movie that are nods to the comics. It was cool to see Lasher and Agony, and it seems like the movie kept the origin that they were made in a lab. But they don't say the names of the symbiotes or the other symbiotes introduced. And only the comic book fans are going to recognize their designs. I hate to say it, I don't think Sony movies were written for comic book fans. If they were, they would stick a little closer to source material. Also, the scene with Agony near the end of the movie was lame. I won't go more into that because I don't want to spoil anything, but I just hated it. The added symbiotes also didn't seem important to the story at all. They didn't do well in any of the fights. Some of them were barely on screen. There's one symbiote in the final fight that looks like it might have taken a little bit more CGI budget than the others were, that was immediately taken out. Like, immediately jumps right into the mouth of something. It was so stupid. And then even Lasher wasn't in the movie for long after a decent build-up to the fact that somebody was able to survive being his host. The first quarter of the movie, every time you see him, it's about how Lasher was able to have a host. The Vegas part of the movie was useless. I won't spend much on that, but it seemed to only be a funny moment. Didn't add anything to the story. If you deleted that entire section of the movie, it would barely change anything. So overall, I would give Venom a 6 out of 10. It was a fun movie, but there were a lot of plot holes and bad writing that took away from it. But on to The Wild Robot. I've heard nothing but good things about this movie. So I decided that I needed to go and see it. And I wasn't disappointed by this movie. The animation was incredible. This is such a beautiful movie. Probably one of my favorite art styles in animation since Into the Spider-Verse. The scenery was stunning. The animals were detailed, unique. The movement looked very fluid. And just based on animation alone, this is a great movie. If you're into animation, I would recommend it off the bat. The writing was spectacular. The movie makes you care about a robot that shouldn't be capable of emotion and a small goose that was separated from its family. It teaches valuable lessons about change, family, hard work, and working together to survive tough circumstances. The cast of characters is great, from the lonely fox to the awesome family that is always playing dead, to the stubborn beaver, and to the scary bear. And I also love that this movie seems to be post-apocalyptic. There's a few scenes where you see hints of a fallen civilization and hints of a new, like, dystopian civilization. And I would love to learn more about the lore surrounding the movie. I hope they release something eventually, even if it's just a short book or something, just explaining what's going on in the background there. My only issue with The Wild Wild Bad is that the movie is not meant for me. Although I enjoyed it, and I think they did an amazing job, it didn't emotionally impact me as much as I'm sure it did other people. I'm not very close to my family. It's a very big family movie. I haven't been adopted. I've never adopted anyone else. I think this would strike really well for people who have been adopted. It would be a very deep movie for them. And I haven't been abandoned. Or mostly haven't been abandoned. There's some family stuff there. Like most people, I've struggled with determining a purpose like the protagonist did, but not enough to form an emotional response to this movie. That's not the fault of anyone that worked on the movie. It's mostly a me thing. So I don't want to take away from the movie by that saying that. I just wanted to put out there, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if it more personally impacted me. And I'm sure it personally impacted a lot of people. Probably most people that saw this movie. Despite this, I would still give The Wild Wild about an 8 out of 10. So unlike some people, this is not my favorite animated movie of the year, but it's still really good. So as of right now, my favorite animated movies for this year would be Transformers 1 and Inside Out 2. I loved those two a lot. But this is pretty up there. Just because I haven't seen a lot of animated movies this year either, but I think it is really good, and 8 out of 10 is nothing to sneeze at. This is my opinion of these two pretty new movies. If you would like to discuss the movies, please comment on the video, and I will try to get back to everyone. I really like having these kinds of conversations. I want to know your guys' opinions. Maybe I'm wrong and Venom is made for comic book fans. Or maybe The Wild Robot doesn't have to have an emotional impact. I don't mind if you disagree with my opinions, but let's try to be civil in the comments. You can be nice to people on YouTube. It's perfectly fine. You can also like the video if you did enjoy it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you'd like. Other than that, until next time, peace.